When Simon was a teenager, he went with his father to watch a superhero movie called Magnum. The incredible powers of the hero shown in that film completely amazed him. From that day on, he became a huge fan of that superhero. And even after growing up, the same admiration and obsession remained in his heart. After struggling for many years, Simon finally gets a chance to work in a major TV show. But even before filming begins, he starts suggesting changes to the script. Gradually, his confidence grows so much that he begins giving his opinion on almost every scene. This happens that starts irritating the entire team. Eventually, one of the producers gets fed up and removes him from the show, causing Simon to lose the first big opportunity of his career. Filled with anger and disappointment, Simon returns home, but another major shock is waiting for him there. His girlfriend Vivian is packing her belongings and preparing to leave him. In that moment, Simon realizes that his life is completely falling apart. He tries his best to stop Vivian, but she has already decided to end the relationship. The next day, in an attempt to forget his troubles for a while, Simon goes to watch a movie. Just before the film begins, he notices a man arguing with someone over the phone. Annoyed by the noise, Simon walks over to ask him to be quiet, but then he discovers that the man is not an ordinary person, but his favorite actor, Trevor Slattery. Excited, Simon tries to start a conversation with Trevor, but the movie begins and he is forced to stop talking. However, after the film ends, the two share a brief conversation. During their discussion, Trevor reveals that he is soon going to give a screen test for the role of Barnaby in the remake of Magnum. The moment Simon hears this, a new spark of hope lights up inside him. As soon as he learns that his favorite superhero movie is getting a remake, he immediately rushes to his agent Janelle and demands an audition with director Von Kovac. But unfortunately, it happens to be the final day of casting. On top of that, Janelle is still upset with Simon because he was fired from his previous show. As a result, she flatly refuses and declines to recommend him to the director. But Simon is not someone who gives up easily. He decides to create his own opportunity. To make that happen, he secretly gets Von Kovac's address from Janelle's computer and heads straight to the production company. Once there, he sees a long line of actors waiting for their auditions. While waiting for his turn, he keeps practicing his lines over and over again. During that time, Trevor walks out of the audition room and recognizes Simon sitting in the hall. He immediately remembers their meeting at the theater. Impressed by the young man's passion, Trevor decides to help him and gives him a few special tips that could make him stand out from the rest of the competitors. A few minutes later, when Simon enters the audition room, he uses the breathing technique Trevor had taught him to calm himself down. Slowly, his fear begins to fade away, and then he delivers such an impressive performance that everyone on the evaluation panel is amazed by his acting. After the audition ends, Simon and Trevor decide to go out for drinks together to celebrate the moment. The two spend some time together, but Simon has been feeling a strange sense of uneasiness since the morning. Because of that, he leaves early and heads back home. As soon as night falls, Trevor receives a call from his boss. The person on the other end tells him that contact with Simon has finally been established. He then reveals something shocking to Trevor. According to him, Simon could be extremely dangerous and might become a threat not only to himself, but also to the people around him. Therefore, Trevor is instructed to keep a close eye on him at all times. In reality, Trevor had been recruited by the Department of Damage Control for a special mission sometime earlier. If he had refused to help them, he would have been sent back to prison because of an accident that occurred on the set of his previous film. During that time, Agent Cleary showed him a photograph of Simon Williams and assigned him the task of getting close to him. The following morning, Simon receives a call from Janelle. At first, she scolds him for showing up at the audition without informing her, but then she shares some good news. She tells him that the casting team was highly impressed with his performance. However, before ending the call, she asks Simon to record one more scene that needs to be sent to a new evaluation team. Simon tries his best to record the scene perfectly, but repeated failures begin increasing his stress. Before long, he suffers a severe panic attack. Suddenly, a strange transformation starts taking place inside his body. A red glow begins shining from his eyes, and his arms and legs start moving at an unnatural speed. Within moments, vibrations can be felt throughout the entire house, as if some unknown power has awakened inside him. Meanwhile, while attending a meeting with Agent Cleary, Trevor receives a message from Simon. Simon asks him for help with filming a scene. Before leaving, Cleary hands Trevor a small device and instructs him to secretly place it on Simon's computer so they can hack into his system and monitor him. But when Trevor rings Simon's doorbell, Simon comes downstairs and the two head toward a self-tape studio where they are supposed to record the scene. After arriving there, they they discover that the person hired to assist them is completely unprepared for the job. Seeing this, both of them decide to leave and return. Simon does not want to shoot at his own apartment, so Trevor suggests recording the scene at his place instead. However, as soon as they arrive, a neighbor's loud music creates another problem, and the shoot is interrupted once again. After that, Trevor asks one of his old friends for help and takes Simon to the luxurious home of famous actor Joe Pantoliano. Joe warmly welcomes them and even allows them to film inside his lavish mansion. But the atmosphere becomes awkward when Joe starts teasing Trevor about a role that had been taken away from him years ago. Watching the uncomfortable conversation between the two, Simon decides to leave. As a result, his scene once again remains unfinished. After several failed attempts, Simon decides that the best option is to shoot the scene in his own apartment. This time, Trevor helps him, and Simon finally manages to record the scene successfully. He immediately sends the video to Janelle. During this time, Trevor finds an opportunity and secretly places the special device on top of Simon's computer. A little later, while Simon is in the bathroom, Trevor notices a cloth hanging on the wall. Out of curiosity, he removes it and is shocked to see several mysterious markings hidden behind it. At that moment, he begins to think that Agent Cleary may have been right and that Simon is truly hiding a major secret. But as soon as he sees Simon returning, he quickly acts normal and pretends that nothing seems suspicious. After that, he quietly retrieves his device. The next day, Agent Cleary and his team examine all the files copied from Simon's computer. However, they find nothing except audition recordings and self-tape videos. No suspicious evidence turns up at all. Even so, Cleary refuses to give up and decides to push the investigation further. Cleary learns that Simon's mother's birthday is coming up soon. In his opinion, this is the perfect opportunity to get closer to the family. Therefore, he orders Trevor to attend the party by any means necessary and carry a listening device with him so their conversations can be monitored. When Trevor realizes that he will now have to question Simon's family as well, he becomes frustrated. He argues that this was never part of their original deal. But because of his fear of being sent back to prison, he has no choice but to obey Cleary's orders. Sometime later, when Simon talks about his mother's birthday and mentions that the party will be held in a nearby town, Trevor immediately offers to go with him. In the end, he cleverly manages to get himself added to the guest list. On the day of the celebration, Simon's mother Martha welcomes all the guests. During the conversation, she explains that her elder son Eric arranged the repairs and decorations for the entire garden, especially for this occasion. She then brings up a shocking incident from many years ago. Martha reveals that when Simon was only 13 years old, the stove in their house suddenly exploded and started a massive fire. The accident was so severe that nobody expected anyone to survive. But the most astonishing part was that Simon walked out of the flames completely unharmed. Even the doctors could not understand how he escaped such a terrible disaster without receiving a single scratch. To this day, the incident remains an unsolved mystery for the entire family. Once all the guests finally arrive, the birthday party begins in full swing. Taking advantage of the occasion, Trevor starts gathering as much information as possible about Simon's past. He talks to different family members and quietly pays attention to every little detail around him. During lunch, Simon's older brother Eric shares the good news that he has received a promotion at his company. After that, he offers Simon a position on his team as well. However, Simon politely declines. He explains that he has high hopes for his acting career because there is a strong chance that he may soon land the lead role in a superhero movie. While Simon is busy talking with his family, Trevor excuses himself by saying he needs to use the bathroom. In reality, he takes advantage of the empty house and begins searching through the old bedroom that once belonged to Simon and Eric. During this, Agent Cleary calls him. Pressuring Trevor, he says that no solid information has been found so far and that he needs to work harder. But just then, Simon arrives and invites Trevor to join the rest of the guests in the garden, forcing their conversation to end abruptly. Sometime later, the party reaches its final stage. Trevor starts helping Martha collect the dishes after the meal. During their conversation, Martha shares something emotional about her son. She says that Simon had always been very lonely while growing up. He never really had close friends and rarely brought anyone home. That is why she feels so happy today to see that Simon finally has at least one friend who stands by his side. After that, everyone gathers together to sing the birthday song and cut the cake. The atmosphere becomes warm and joyful. As the party comes to an end, Simon presents his mother with a special gift, an ice cream machine. Martha is absolutely delighted when she sees the present, but then Eric sarcastically asks where Simon found the money to buy such an expensive machine. He reminds him that for the past several years, he has done nothing but attend auditions and has achieved no major success in his career. Gradually, Eric's comments turn into insults as he begins belittling his younger brother. Listening to his brother's constant remarks, Simon's anger starts boiling inside him. His expression changes and a strange energy begins building up within him. Within seconds, his rage spirals spirals out of control. In a burst of anger, he slams his fist onto the kitchen counter, and the entire kitchen island shatters before everyone's eyes. All the people present are left completely stunned by what they witness. After the incident, Simon leaves without saying a word. He gets into his car and starts driving back home. Throughout the journey, he remains silent. After leaving the city behind, he pulls over on the side of the road and tries to gather himself for a moment. He tells Trevor that no one other than his family had ever seen this terrifying side of him. Feeling defeated by life, Simon starts believing that maybe his brother was right all along. With a broken heart, he says that he will never be a successful actor and that all of his dreams may remain nothing more than dreams. Seeing Simon in this condition, Trevor becomes emotional as well. He steps out of the car pretending that he wants some fresh air, but once outside, he makes a decision that changes everything. He destroys the memory card from the surveillance device and deletes every conversation that was recorded that day. He no longer wants to betray Simon. A little later, when he returns to the car, Simon receives a call from Janelle. The moment he answers, he is greeted with incredible news. Janelle informs him that both Simon and Trevor have been selected for the second stage of casting for Magnum. Hearing this, a spark of hope finally returns to Simon's face after a very long time. One night, after finishing a long shift at the club, DeMar was sitting with his boss and enjoying a drink while Bridget was preparing his paycheck. That was when Bridget realized that it had been exactly 3 years since she had paid DeMar his first salary. Smiling, she asked whether he enjoyed working there. DeMar enthusiastically replied that he absolutely loved his job. He explained that unlike most people living in Los Angeles, he had never dreamed of becoming an actor or an artist. He was happy with his simple life and completely satisfied with it. A little later, Bridget asked him to take the trash outside. As DeMar carried the garbage bag out, he noticed a strange glowing liquid spread across the ground. Curious, he reached down and touched it. But the moment his fingers came into contact with the mysterious substance, everything changed. Suddenly, DeMar found himself in a dark and terrifying place. Several mysterious doors appeared all around him. The sight frightened him so badly that he started screaming at the top of his lungs, and within moments he collapsed unconscious. A few minutes later, when he regained consciousness, he found himself back inside his apartment. Seeing his pet dog brought him some relief, but the very next moment he noticed something even more shocking. His dog and the objects in the room were passing straight through his body without touching him, as if he had entered an entirely different state of existence. Determined to understand and fix what had happened, DeMar returned to the place where he had first seen the strange liquid. But when he got there, he discovered that the dumpster itself had disappeared. With that, he was left without a single clue. Although troubled by the events of the previous night, DeMar still returned to work. Later that evening, while managing the entrance outside the club, a massive explosion suddenly echoed from inside. A speaker had exploded, causing a fire to break out in the building. Panicked customers rushed toward the exit to save themselves, but the main door became jammed. DeMar tried with all his strength to force it open, while on the other side, Bridget immediately called the fire department. That was when DeMar remembered his new abilities. Without any effort, he passed directly through the door. He then created a way out for the trapped people by using his own body. One by one, the customers began escaping safely by moving through him like a living portal. In this way, DeMar saved hundreds of lives and became a hero overnight. Among the survivors was famous actor Josh Gad, whose life had also been saved by DeMar. Impressed by his rescuer, Josh offered him a job as his personal assistant and promised a salary so large that DeMar simply could not refuse. Gradually, news of DeMar's powers spread across the world. People began calling him Porta. Now working alongside Josh, he started using his unique abilities more openly, and his popularity continued to grow. A few months later, Josh landed a role in an action movie. He also convinced DeMar to become part of the film. In one important scene, Josh and his partners attempt to steal gold from a bank, but end up trapped inside the vault. That is when Porta uses his powers to get them out. When the movie is released, audiences are thrilled to see a real superhero on the big screen. Before long, DeMar's popularity reaches incredible heights. He is no longer just an ordinary bouncer, but the newest superstar in the entire entertainment industry. After achieving fame, wealth, and success, DeMar often starts visiting the same nightclub where he once worked. The only difference is that now he goes there not as an employee, but as a celebrity. People are excited to take photos with him, and his name is being discussed everywhere. Soon, several major companies begin signing multi-million-dollar advertising and business deals with him. From the outside, his life appears absolutely perfect, but deep down, DeMar is not truly happy. He begins to feel that even after achieving so much success, there is still something missing from his life. However, DeMar's success does not last for very long. One day, he appears in a commercial for a potato chip brand, but the decision turns out to be the biggest mistake of his life. The product he promotes ends up causing severe burns and injuries to many customers. customers. Before long, public anger turns against Damar. His popularity begins to collapse rapidly, and multiple lawsuits are filed against him. In an effort to save his falling reputation, Damar decides to work with Josh on another movie. At first, everything goes smoothly, but during an action scene, something happens that nobody could have imagined. In the scene, Josh is supposed to throw bags full of money out of a truck while Porta helps him using his powers. However, during filming, Damar suddenly starts feeling unwell. He tries to stop the scene, but Josh dismisses his concerns, assuming it is just nervousness. As Josh prepares to pass through his body, Damar's condition becomes even worse. Then, in the very next moment, something shocking happens. Josh suddenly vanishes into thin air. Everyone on set is left stunned. A search is launched, but there is no sign of him anywhere. A few months after Josh's disappearance, Damar is taken into custody by the Department of Damage Control. Following an investigation, he is sentenced to remain under lifelong supervision. At the same time, major Hollywood studios come together to create a new rule, stating that people with superpowers can no longer receive major roles in films or television shows. When Simon hears this news, he is completely shaken. He instantly realizes that if anyone discovers his abilities, his dream of becoming an actor will be over forever. Because of that, he decides to hide his true nature at any cost. But the news begins to eat away at him from the inside. He starts living in constant fear that someone might uncover the secret of his powers. His anxiety grows stronger with each passing day. Trevor tries to calm him down and teaches him several breathing techniques that help Simon regain control for a short while. Unfortunately, the peace does not last long. Just then, a dangerous criminal named Frank arrives. He is involved in illegal businesses, and Trevor owes him a significant amount of money. Frank drags both of them outside the bar and begins brutally beating Trevor. He threatens him repeatedly and demands that his money be returned. Trevor appears completely helpless, but Simon cannot stand by and watch his friend being attacked. Even when Frank points a gun directly at his head, he refuses to back down. The moment the trigger is pulled, Simon uses his incredible speed to move the gun away from him and avoid the shot. He then unleashes his true strength. Within seconds, he knocks Frank's men to the ground one after another. His power is so overwhelming that he lifts the criminals and throws them into each other. Before long, the entire gang is forced to surrender. But after the fight ends, Simon faces a new problem. He discovers that a young man standing nearby witnessed the entire incident and even recorded the fight using a camera attached to his helmet. The moment Simon hears this, panic takes over. If that footage gets released, the secret of his powers will be exposed to the entire world. He immediately chases after the boy Jaden, hoping to somehow delete the video. But Jaden turns out to be far more clever than expected. He disappears into the crowd and slips out of Simon's sight. Left with no other option, Simon jumps into his car and begins pursuing him. Determined to stop the video at any cost, he speeds through traffic without caring about the consequences. Several times he even drives onto the sidewalk to avoid congestion. After a long chase, he finally catches up to Jaden, but instead of leading him somewhere ordinary, Jaden takes him directly to a strange and mysterious bar. Simon has no idea that inside that bar he is about to encounter a world capable of changing his entire life forever. After introducing himself, Jaden gets straight to the point. He tells Simon that he needs help solving a problem. He also makes it clear that if Simon refuses to help him, the video showing his superpowers will be uploaded directly to YouTube. Hearing this, Simon realizes that he has no other option left. With no choice, he agrees to help Jaden. Jaden explains that a boy named Esteban has stolen his motorcycle and that they need to get it back. The next morning, Jaden takes Simon and Trevor to Esteban's house. Once they arrive, Simon begins putting on a new act. He pretends to be an undercover police officer and claims that he checked the motorcycle's registration number, which proved that the bike was stolen. Fully committed to the fake story he created in his head, Simon confidently knocks on the door. The door is opened by a girl named Olivia. However, the moment she sees Trevor, she recognizes him from one of his old movies. Just like that, their entire disguise falls apart. Their fabricated story instantly becomes useless. Even so, Simon tries to pressure Esteban into returning the motorcycle, but Esteban fires back by saying that Jaden is actually the one lying and that the motorcycle was never stolen. While everyone is trying to figure out the real reason behind the conflict, Frank suddenly arrives with several armed men. He grabs Jaden and begins questioning him about Trevor because he has discovered where Trevor has been hiding. Realizing the situation is getting worse, Trevor quickly comes up with a plan. He tells Jaden to somehow send his camera through the entrance of the post office so the footage inside it can be safely removed. Meanwhile, Olivia manages to delete the video files. On the other hand, Jaden finally admits the truth. He confesses that he tried to steal Esteban's motorcycle as revenge for an old dispute. Just then, the police arrive at the scene. Frank and his men are caught red-handed. However, in an attempt to avoid arrest, they open fire on the officers. Chaos erupts as both sides exchange gunfire. Taking advantage of the confusion, Jaden slips inside the house, and soon everyone manages to escape through the back door. Eventually, they make it safely back to their vehicle. After that, Simon and Trevor head directly to Von Kovac's house, where they find several other actors waiting. All of them have been selected for the final audition of Magnum. A few minutes later, the director himself comes outside and leads everyone into his office. There, he pairs the actors together to see how well they fit the roles of Magnum and Barnaby. During the audition, Simon is performing a scene with another actor, but suddenly the actor starts mocking him and calls him strange and unstable. The moment Simon hears this, his anger explodes. He loses control and lands a powerful punch on the man. The hit is so devastating that everything around him seems to be falling apart. But then, Simon suddenly opens his eyes. He sits up in panic and breathes a sigh of relief because it was all just a terrifying dream. In reality, the audition had not even started yet, but the nightmare had already shown him one thing very clearly. If he failed to control his anger and powers, his greatest dream could be destroyed in an instant. After the break ends, the moment that both Simon and Trevor had been waiting for finally arrives. During the audition, they get the chance to perform together. Both of them give everything they have and pour genuine emotion into the scene. Their incredible chemistry and powerful performances leave director Von Kovac deeply impressed. By the end of the day, they receive news that could change their lives forever. Simon is chosen for the role of Magnum, while Trevor is selected to play Barnaby. Hearing this, both of them are overwhelmed with happiness, but the news is so huge that they barely know how to react. On the drive home, they remain silent the entire way, still trying to process what has just happened. As Simon drops Trevor off and prepares to leave, a new threat suddenly emerges. Agent Cleary's men capture Trevor. Cleary bluntly informs him that his assignment is over and that he will be sent back to prison. Hearing this, Trevor panics. He asks for more time and claims that he can still gather evidence against Simon that could be used to incriminate him. Using that excuse, he tries to protect his freedom. The following week, filming for the movie officially begins. As soon as he arrives on set, Simon's old habit starts resurfacing. He begins suggesting changes to the script. This time, however, he manages to control himself and does not try to rewrite the entire story. Things are different now. He has become the lead actor of the film. Because of that, he has more freedom to express his ideas and no longer lives in constant fear of being fired. For Simon, it feels like a dream coming true. After filming wraps up, the entire crew heads to a famous restaurant to celebrate. There, one of the producers offers Simon the lead role in another major movie that he could film after Magnum is completed. Surprisingly, influenced by Trevor's advice, Simon turns down the offer. He tells Janelle that instead of movies, he would prefer if she found him some strong theater productions. He no longer wants only fame. He wants to become a better actor. The next day, Simon is scheduled to meet one of the country's most respected journalists, Kathy Friedman. Simon believes that if he can impress her, she may avoid writing anything negative about him. However, the moment they meet, he realizes that Kathy is completely different from what he expected. She openly tells him that she dislikes flattery and wants him to behave normally. Kathy's real goal is to spend time with Simon and observe how he treats his coworkers and friends. She wants to write a genuine and honest story about him. The problem is that Simon has always felt uncomfortable being watched closely. Whenever people pay too much attention to him, he becomes nervous. As a result, he relies heavily on Trevor throughout the day to help him appear relaxed and natural. At the end of the day, Kathy thanks both actors and reveals something that immediately increases Simon's anxiety. She mentions that, in order to improve the story, she interviewed Simon's former girlfriend Vivian the day before. The moment he hears this, countless questions begin racing through Simon's mind. He starts worrying that Vivian may have revealed something about his secret. Concerned, he invites Vivian to dinner that same evening. During dinner, Vivian shares an emotional truth. She says that she always felt Simon was different from everyone else. She had hoped that one day he would trust her enough to share his deepest secret, but that day never came. However, Vivian reassures him that she never told Kathy anything about his powers or any of his hidden secrets. She tells him that he has nothing to worry about But another problem is already waiting for him the next morning. As soon as he arrives on set, he receives a call from his mother. She tells him that Kathy visited both her and Eric and asked them several questions as well. Hearing this immediately raises Simon's stress once again. Filled with anxiety and frustration, he quickly calls Eric to find out what he told the journalist, but Eric does not answer the phone. Now, Simon becomes completely restless. His mind starts imagining all kinds of worst-case scenarios. Trevor tries to calm him down, but then they notice Kathy approaching them. The two immediately sit down with her at a nearby restaurant. There, Simon directly asks what Eric said about him, but Kathy's answer catches him completely off guard. She explains that Eric spoke only positively about him. He said that he was proud of his younger brother because, despite years of failures and setbacks, Simon never stopped chasing his dreams. According to Eric, Simon's determination and hard work are his greatest strengths. Hearing this, Simon realizes for the first time that maybe his brother does not think as poorly of him as he always believed. Hearing this, Simon finally breathes a sigh of relief. He feels reassured knowing that his biggest secret is still safe. But then the conversation shifts toward Trevor. Kathy starts asking questions about his past and brings up the incidents that led to him spending several years in prison. Trevor tries to avoid the topic and begins denying the accusations made by the journalist. However, Kathy already knows that Trevor was released before completing his full sentence, so she directly asks whether he made a secret deal with the government. The moment he hears that question, Trevor realizes the situation has become serious. He feels that Kathy is trying to damage his reputation. As a result, he immediately gets up and leaves. Trevor's behavior also troubles Simon. He follows his friend and tries to learn the truth. That is when Trevor is finally forced to confess everything. He admits that he was recruited by the Department of Damage Control to spy on Simon. The truth shatters Simon completely. The person he considered his closest friend had been betraying him the entire time. Filled with anger and heartbreak, Simon responds with nothing more than a bitter remark. He sarcastically congratulates Trevor on his amazing acting and walks away. Simon heads to an isolated location where nobody can see him, but this time his anger is far more dangerous than before. The moment he releases all of his emotions, the power inside him spirals out of control. In the next instant, a massive explosion erupts. The building he is standing in is almost completely destroyed. For a few seconds, the entire film set even loses power. The incident is so huge that it leaves everyone shocked. After the explosion, the police are called in. The following day, every news channel outlet begins asking the public for help identifying the possible suspect. Meanwhile, Agent Cleary and his team are on their way to Simon's house. But before they arrive, Trevor manages to contact his friend. He apologizes to Simon and promises that he will do everything possible to make up for his mistakes. During the conversation, Trevor advises him not to let his life and dreams fall apart. He also promises that he will not allow Simon's acting career to be destroyed under any circumstances. To save his friend, Trevor decides to make an enormous sacrifice. He records a video in which he takes full responsibility for the explosion at the studio. Using his remarkable acting skills, he convinces the authorities that he was the mastermind behind the entire incident. That same morning, Trevor is taken back to prison, but shortly afterward, Terrell arrives at Simon's house and informs him that director Von Kovac is waiting for his lead actor so filming can continue. Time passes, and several months later, Magnum is finally released in theaters. On the night of the premiere, Simon attends the event alongside his entire family. When Eric sees his younger brother on the big screen for the very first time, tears fill his eyes. After the movie ends, he personally approaches Simon and praises his incredible performance. It is perhaps the first truly emotional moment the two brothers have ever shared. Proud of everything he has achieved, Simon steps outside and greets his fans. During the celebration, he asks Janelle if she has heard any news about Trevor, but her answer immediately sinks his heart. She tells him that wherever Trevor has been taken, returning from there is almost impossible. Janelle advises him to move on with his life, but Simon is not the kind of person who gives up on those he cares about. Determined to rescue his friend, he begins working on a new plan. He gets close to a man named Chuck and offers him money in exchange for his help. Simon explains that he is preparing for a new role and needs to study the behavior of prison guards. In reality, this is only an excuse. Chuck's family is buried under enormous medical debt, so he agrees to the proposal. Afterward, he creates a false identity for Simon, allowing him to infiltrate the Department of Damage Control headquarters disguised as a security officer. Sometime later, Simon successfully enters the high security facility. He walks through the hallways like an ordinary ordinary employee and patiently waits for the right opportunity. Then he claims that he needs to use the restroom. Using the excuse as a distraction, he slips away from Chuck and secretly makes his way to Trevor's prison cell. After many months, the two friends finally stand face to face again. Trevor is stunned when he sees him. Without wasting a second, Simon unleashes his true power and tears apart the heavy prison bars with his bare hands. He then gathers ionic energy throughout his entire body. His strength has grown far beyond what it once was. In the very next moment, he lifts Trevor with him and launches into the air. Together, they escape the prison and disappear into the distance as free men. This is where the incredible story comes to an end, with an ordinary man choosing to fight against the world itself in order to protect both his dreams and his best friend. So, what did you think about this series? Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you can continue enjoying more amazing stories like this in the future. See you again in the next video.